the human who wouldn't break. The twin sons of Gravenpire beat down on the barren rock that was Penal Station 17. The air shimmered with heat, and even the thick-skinned Zahn wilted under the brutal glare. Among them, a lone human trudged forward, chains clinking with each step. Commander Elias Ward didn't look like much anymore. Starved, sunburned, and shackled, he was a shadow of the soldier he once was. But there was something in his eyes, something the guards couldn't scorch out. It wasn't just defiance. It was focus, patience, purpose. The Empire had captured him after Earth fell. They had expected fear. They got silence. They expected pleas. They got a quiet stay. He was paraded before the holocams, broken and blooded, as proof that humanity's last resistance had failed. Then they threw him into the pit where the rest of the galaxy's undesirables rotted away. But Elias wasn't interested in rotting. The gods mocked him at first. The mighty human. They sneered in dozens of alien dialects. Your planet burned. Why still fight? He never answered. Instead, he listened. Each day on the work lines, he learned more. Which species were docile, which ones simmered under the surface, which gods were cruel, which were careless. He learned the shift rotations, the storage vault locations, even how to read the pictographic symbols on the control panels. He said little, but observed everything. At night, when the cells buzzed with low murmurs, he patched wounds with scraps of cloth, traded smuggled rations, whispered to the frightened. His voice was quiet, measured, never commanding, only suggesting. The prisoners began to look at him differently. Then came the incident. A wiry, translucent-skinned alien named Kezith collapsed in the heat. The guards didn't stop the line. They never did. When Kezith failed to rise, one approached with a shock pike. Elias stepped between them. He didn't speak. He didn't threaten. He just stood there, glaring through swollen eyes. The guard hesitated, then struck him across the face. Elias went down, hard, but he got back up. Another strike, then another. Still, he stood. By the fourth blow, the prisoners had stopped working. By the sixth, they were staring in silence. When the guard finally walked off, frustrated, Elias collapsed beside Kezith and helped him drink from a leaking pipe. The entire line watched in stunned silence. The guard tried to shout them back to work, but something had shifted. Later, in the cells, whispers spread like fire. The human stood up. He didn't even flinch. He took the pain for one of us. No grand speech. No flag raised. Just one man, standing when no one else dared. That night, someone slid a sharpened piece of scrap metal into Elias's cell. No words were spoken, but the message was clear. He wasn't alone anymore, and the fire had found its first spark. The spark in the shadows. The cell block had changed. Where once there was only the dull hum of despair, now silence held weight, charged, deliberate. Elias noticed it in the way prisoners met his eyes, in the way they walked slower, tighter, watching the guards, watching each other, listening. It started with questions. A Telari engineer, all fur and twitching ears, whispered in the dark, "You know machines." Elias nodded once. "Well enough." The Telari handed him a twisted hunk of mining equipment. "Think you can make it? Misfire." Elias grinned for the first time since Earth fell. Within days, conveyor belts jammed. Sensors failed. Drill arms overheated. Not enough to raise alarms, just enough to sow frustration, to waste time. The guards blamed faulty parts. The overseers beat technicians. But the sabotage spread. Elias never ordered it. He simply taught. In stolen minutes and hushed corners, he showed the prisoners how to loop wires, disable relays, and fake diagnostics. He taught them hand signals to communicate silently. He explained how humans once fought from the shadows, how a smaller force always had a chance if they knew when to strike. And the prisoners listened. Oh, how they listened. From a dozen worlds they had come. Different languages, different fears. But suffering had taught them the same lesson. The Empire was a boot, and they were beneath it. Elias gave them something else. A reason to fight back. One evening, a Zahn giant, gray-scaled, slow-spoken, approached him. "There are others," he said, in the shipping docks. They hear stories. They want to help. Elias leaned in. Then we teach them. The spark spread. Hidden messages were smuggled out through cargo crates. Sympathetic workers in nearby systems, some who remembered Earth's final stand, picked up the signal. Resistance cells flickered to life on mining colonies and slave stations. They didn't know Elias by name. They only knew the rumors, the human ghost, the chainbreaker, the one who stood. And still, Elias waited. He knew timing was everything. The guards had grown complacent again, blaming mechanical failures instead of sabotage. They rotated their patrols with the same patterns. Elias had mapped it all, on walls, on dirt, in his mind. Then came the catalyst. A guard killed a young prisoner during a food dispute. The body was left in the yard as a warning. That night, Elias summoned 12 trusted prisoners. "Tomorrow," he said, voice low and sharp, "we take the freighter." The plan was desperate. Hijack the next supply vessel mid-transfer, overpower the lightly armed crew, escape the planet before orbital guns could lock on. Failure meant mass execution. But no one hesitated. When the moment came, it was swift. A Telari jammed the hangar doors. The Zahn ripped through the docking bay guards. Elias led the charge onto the freighter, disabling its pilot and locking the course for deep space. As the freighter soared past the moon's orbit, chased by Imperial gunships, a dozen alien species stood together on its deck, blooded, breathless, free. And with them stood the human who had lit the match. The fire across the stars. The stolen freighter drifted into the asteroid belt of the Nairo's system, its engine sputtering and patched with salvage. But within its battered hull, a revolution was brewing. Elias stood at the makeshift command table, really just a welded slab of hull plating, surrounded by alien faces. Telari, Zahn, Odu, Jekari, and half a dozen others. Former slaves, soldiers, workers. None had titles. None asked for one. "This can't just be a prison break," Elias said. "It has to become something bigger." He pointed to a star chart dotted with red. Mining colonies, slave camps, labor stations. "These are cracks. We hit them hard. We make them shatter." The Telari engineer, RYL, nodded. "There are signals. Colonies where the Empire's grip is weak. If we hit fast, spread the word. They'll rise," finished the Zahn warrior. And so they did. The Coalition of the Broken was born, not with ceremony, but with action. They struck supply depots and freed transport convoys. They hacked into Imperial broadcasts, sending messages of defiance to the far edges of the galaxy. The rebellion didn't ask for permission. It lit up the stars. Elias taught them guerrilla warfare, Earth-style. Hidden fade raids, EMP traps, faking distress signals to lure in patrols before ambushing them. Each battle added allies and equipment. Each system that fell brought new recruits. What the Empire failed to understand, what it always failed to understand, was that fear stopped working once people had nothing left to lose. Soon, the rebellion wasn't just surviving. It was winning. The turning point came at Corellan Moon Base, where an experimental dreadnought, the Vigilant Spear, was docked for testing. Intelligence from a defecting Imperial technician confirmed a narrow window of opportunity. Elias led the assault personally. They used mining rigs to mask their approach, slipped past the orbital pickets under asteroid cover, and disabled the station's gravity generators. In the chaos, rebels stormed the vessel from every access hatch. The dreadnought was taken in under 15 minutes. Its hull still bore the Empire's crest when it jumped into hyperspace under rebel control. Elias renamed it Reckoning. With the Reckoning, the rebellion gained teeth. It could now punch back. Hard. Planet by planet, the coalition spread, sometimes fighting, sometimes inspiring local uprisings before a single shot was fired. Elias never demanded loyalty. He offered something rarer, hope. And with hope came fire. The Empire responded with crackdowns and purges. Entire colonies were sterilized in fear-driven retaliation. But that only fed the flame. To many, Elias Ward had become more myth than man. They told stories of how he couldn't die, how he outwitted fleets, how even the Empire's assassins failed to touch him. But in quiet moments, aboard the Reckoning, Elias stared at the stars and wondered how much longer he could keep this going. Because rebellions burned bright. But they also burned fast. The day the galaxy burned, the stars above the imperial capital burned with streaks of fire and steel. From the bridge of the reckoning, Elias Ward stood still, eyes locked on the swirling chaos of battle. The final push had begun. Coalition fleets, patched together from liberated worlds, fought tooth and claw against the remnants of the once mighty Imperial Armada. All wings report ready, HFY announced beside him. We hold the momentum. Elias didn't smile. Then we press it. Target the comm towers. Blind them. The reckoning surged forward, its guns roaring. Around it, Zahn heavy cruisers rammed blockade ships, Teleri stealth frigates sowed havoc from behind, and liberated drones swarmed over orbital platforms like angry wasps. Every species the Empire had enslaved was now returning the favor, with interest. But the cost was brutal. Elias had already lost half the fleet before reaching the capital. Friends, fighters, true believers. He had trained miners and engineers to fly, to shoot, to die for a chance at freedom. Now, on the doorstep of the Empire's palace world, there could be no turning back. Ground teams breaching palace perimeter came a voice over comms. Elias grabbed his rifle and turned. Prepare my drop shuttle. You're going down there. HFY asked, stunned. That's a death trap. Elias looked at her, calm and resolute. I started this. I finish it. The palace halls were eerily silent. Its defenders had been shattered in the orbital siege, and those who remained fought like cornered animals. Elias led a team through broken marble corridors and scorched banners, every step forward echoing centuries of tyranny coming undone. At the throne room doors, a final line of guards awaited. They never got the chance to fire. The Odu sniper flanking Elias dropped them in 3 heartbeats. Inside, she waited. Empress Veril, cloaked in shimmering armor, sat slouched on her obsidian throne. Her psychic aura rippled like a storm. So, she hissed, the 8 brings ruin to the stars. Elias raised his weapon. Your empire was already rotting. I just lit the fuse. She struck with her mind, a torrent of agony and terror. Elias staggered but held his ground. She pushed deeper, seeking Faye. But all she found was grief, fire, and purpose. He advanced, step by step. With one final shot, the war ended. The days that followed blurred into history. Statues were torn down. New ones were raised. The coalition refused to crown a new emperor. Instead, they forged a council of worlds. Free, flawed, and chaotic, but theirs. As for Elias Ward, he vanished. Some said he died in the throne room. Others claimed he wandered into the stars. A few believed he still watched, waiting for the next tyrant to rise. But his final message, broadcast across the galaxy, was clear. Freedom isn't a gift. It's a fire. Feed it, share it, or lose it. And in the smoldering wake of a shattered empire, the galaxy remembered the human who refused to bow and burned a tyrant's dream to ash.